Have you ever noticed something strange about anxiety? Sometimes, nothing is actually happening. You're sitting in your room.
Your phone is in your hand.
Everything around you is quiet. And yet, inside your mind, you're fighting 100 battles. What if it doesn't work out? What if I lose this person? What if I fail? What if something goes wrong? What will happen to my future? And the more you try to control everything, the more anxious you become. But Islam gives us a concept that sounds simple. Tawakkul. Trust Allah. And I know what you're probably thinking. I know I'm supposed to trust Allah. But how do I actually stop worrying? Because knowing that Allah is in control and feeling that He is in control are two very different things. And maybe that's where we need to understand tawakkul differently. Why tawakkul feels so difficult? One of the most common pieces of advice we hear as Muslims is just trust Allah, leave it to Allah, have tawakkul. And honestly, we want to. It's not like we're thinking, no, I'd rather stay anxious. We genuinely want to trust Allah. We know Allah is Al-Wakil, the one we can rely upon. We know that Allah sees what we cannot see. And yet, it's still alas dos ng umaga. You're lying in bed, going through every possible worst-case scenario in your head. And here's something important. Anxiety often comes from our desperate need to control an uncertain future. Your brain wants an answer. It wants certainty. It wants to know, will I get the job? Will this relationship work? Will my future be okay? Will this problem disappear? But life doesn't give us those answers. So the mind keeps thinking, maybe if I think about it one more time, I'll find a way to guarantee the outcome. But you can't. And that's where tawakkul begins. Not when you finally know what's going to happen, but when you accept that you don't know. The psychology behind letting go. Think about how exhausting it is to control something that was never completely in your control. You can control your effort. You can control your choices. You can prepare.
You can make dua.
You can take action, but you cannot control every outcome. And when we confuse responsibility with control, anxiety begins to grow. You start believing, if I worry enough, maybe I can prevent something bad from happening. But worrying isn't the same as preparing. Thinking about something repeatedly doesn't give you more control over it. It just makes your nervous system behave as if the danger is already happening. And this is where tawakkul can completely change your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of saying, I must control what happens, you begin saying, I will do what I can. And I will leave what I cannot control to Allah. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what was never yours to carry. Tawakkul doesn't mean doing nothing. And this is where many people misunderstand tawakkul. Tawakkul doesn't mean I do nothing and Allah will handle everything. No, you take the means. You work, you study, you apply, you make decisions, you ask for help, you take the necessary steps, and then you surrender the outcome to Allah. There is a beautiful balance here, where responsibility is the effort. The outcome belongs to Allah. You plant the seed, you water it, you protect it, but you don't command it to grow. And maybe that's what you've been doing wrong. You've been trying to do Allah's part and your part at the same time. You're trying to take action while also trying to guarantee the result. And that's impossible. Why trusting Allah changes anxiety? Imagine you're carrying a heavy bag. You walk for hours, and then someone stronger comes beside you and says, give it to me. I'll carry it. You don't stop walking. You don't stop moving forward. You simply stop carrying the weight that doesn't belong in your hands anymore. That's what tawakkul can feel like. The situation may not change immediately. The problem may still exist. The uncertainty may still be there. But your relationship with the uncertainty changes. You begin to say, oh no, what will happen? But Allah knows. I don't know how this will work out, but Allah does. I can't see the entire road, but Allah can. And suddenly, you don't need every answer before taking the next step, because you trust the one who sees the entire path. But what if things don't go my way? Now here's the difficult part. What happens when you make dua? You take action. You trust Allah, and things still don't happen the way you wanted. This is where tawakkul becomes deeper than simply saying, Allah will give me what I want. Because sometimes Allah doesn't give you what you ask for. Sometimes the door stays closed. Sometimes the person leaves. Sometimes the opportunity doesn't come. Sometimes the plan completely falls apart. And you might think, where was Allah? But tawakkul isn't believing that Allah will always give you exactly what you want. It's believing that Allah knows what you don't. You see, one moment, Allah sees the entire story. You see the door closing. Allah sees what is behind that door. And sometimes what feels like rejection today is protection. You understand much later. That's why tawakkul isn't Allah will give me what I want. It's whatever Allah chooses. I trust that He knows better than I do. And that is a much deeper kind of peace. The shift that changes everything. So the next time anxiety starts taking over your mind, don't tell yourself, I shouldn't be anxious. Instead, ask yourself, what is actually in my control right now? Maybe it's studying for the exam. Maybe it's sending the application. Maybe it's having the difficult conversation. Maybe it's simply making dua. Do that. Take your step and then remind yourself, the result is not mine to control. You don't have to know how everything will work out. You just have to know who you're trusting while it works out. And maybe that's the real psychology of tawakkul. It doesn't promise you a life without uncertainty. It teaches you how to live peacefully inside uncertainty. Here is the deepest realization. Think about the things you're anxious about right now, the future you're trying to predict, the conversation you're replaying, the person you're afraid of losing, the outcome you're desperately trying to control. Ask yourself, what if I stopped trying to control the ending and simply trusted Allah with it? You can still work hard. You can still have goals. You can still dream. You can still fight for what matters. But you don't have to destroy your peace trying to guarantee the result. Because sometimes tawakkul isn't about knowing that everything will go according to your plan. It's about knowing that you will never be outside Allah's knowledge, His wisdom, and His care. So take the step, make the dua, do your part, and then let your heart rest, because you were never meant to control the entire story. You were only asked to trust the one who wrote it. And if this message reached you at a moment when you're struggling to let go, maybe this is your reminder. Do what you can. Trust Allah with what you can't, and don't let tomorrow steal the peace Allah has given you today. If you needed this reminder today, save this video and come back to it whenever your mind starts carrying tomorrow's problems tonight. And remember, tawakkul doesn't mean you have no fear. It means fear doesn't get the final word. Allah